What is happening, guys, and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be checking out the brand new Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves Dicelings Rakor, or Rakor. I think Rakor sounds a little cooler. Finally, an actual dragon for the Dungeons & Dragons movie, so very excited to be taking a look at this one. Let's check out the box art. So here we have a nice product shot there of the figure, looking super sick. We get an amazing piece of artwork there of the black dragon. We have it in the D20. Some pretty cool artwork here at the top as we come around to the back. Again, this guy transforms in 8 steps, so much like the owlbear is a little more complex when in comparison to the beholder, and I think this is looking to be the best one yet, definitely in terms of the wings and just the sculpt work of the body. Really looking forward to this guy. So with all that being said, let's get the packaging out here and take a look at the Rakor dragon as it comes packaged in the die mode. So really cool. This is a 20-sided die. I am slowly learning the mythology of Dungeons & Dragons. Like I said in my beholder review way back towards the beginning of this year, I have never played Dungeons & Dragons, so I'm a complete novice. I merely picked these up because they are transforming and they're from Hasbro, so they definitely piqued my interest. But we get the nice D&D logo slap bang there in the center, this time picked out in a sick metallic green, loads of inscription as well as the numerals scattered throughout this thing. Now I've noticed a few of you guys in the comment section asking me to actually throw this to see how it works, so I'll give it a go. Let's just toss it around, and as you guys can see, let's see what number we got. Here we have number 12. I have no idea what the meaning of that is, so be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. I mean, technically, I guess you could use this in a game, but you're just going to start transforming this guy, as in particular here for the Rakor, it has a load of joints, and I think it would be a little unfair considering that the die isn't balanced. There is more plastic on one half than the other, but yeah, really nice black plastic, definitely does feel pretty thick, and I think it's probably one of the more weightier. Now, in terms of a comparison, we have the black dragon compared alongside the owlbear as well as the beholder, of which I've recently checked out, so definitely be sure to take a look at their reviews. But I think it's quite awesome to see that all of them have different size beast modes, yet their die modes are identical in terms of scale, so definitely pretty impressive from an engineering perspective, and the detail and the sculpt work across the board for all 3 of these, at least in the die mode, is pretty much identical besides some of the sculpture work that you'd need for the body type of said character. So here for the beholder we do get some bubbly texture, whereas it's going to be slightly more smoother of a texture here for the owlbear. But let's get stuck into the transformation. So first of all, it is worth mentioning that this guy is probably the most intricate one that I've reviewed so far, and I'm very much looking forward to the red dragon, so be sure to stay tuned for that review coming up shortly. But I think we're just going to want to come here to the D&D logo, take these halves and flare them out to the sides, and I like how it kind of looks like they're in a mini egg, so you can see the dragon all curled up in a nice ball, and these are going to be the wings. So you're just going to want to open up all of those individual segments just like that. We can then take the tail, hinge this section down and flip out the tip. We can now take the legs and just pull these sections down, and here we have the dragon head, which is really nicely detailed. But just extend this neck piece up. We can then take the arms, bring these sections here forward, and a really neat piece of the transformation would be rotating here at the waist. I just thought it was very simple but rather effective. We can then bend all of these joints at the legs just to get him in a slightly more natural dragon pose. Hinge those wings up, take the elbows and the hands and rotate those forwards, and there we have the Rakor black dragon fully transformed up. And like I said, I think the most impressive one out of the bunch so far. This guy looks sick. The attention to detail, the proportions, and just the articulation is quite freaky, especially considering, again, he turns into a super compact 20-sided die. So as we just jump into the details, I think hands down the best looking Diceling that I've reviewed so far on the channel. I mean, you literally wouldn't think this could transform into a die. I mean, this guy is basically going to compact into something which looks like this, and honestly, I just wouldn't put the two together, as I think the dragon mode on this figure is excellent. So as we just take a look here at the head sculpt, immaculate sculpt work. You can see all of that scaly reptilian texture detail literally scattered all the way throughout this guy, so I thought that was really awesome. Love the metallic green that we have for the inside of the wings, and again, some pretty decent texture and sculpt work going on here. But as we just come back to that head, the only thing which kind of gets on my nerves would be the horns. They're made out of a very pliable piece of plastic, and due to the way he transforms, there's a lot that has to compact in a very tight space, so 9 times out of 10 they're going to warp. But I'm pretty certain you guys are familiar with the boil and pop method, so if you heat this under some hot water, you can kind of pry them into the position you want and then run it under cold water, and hopefully they should stay in that place. But you can see there the teeth. Just imagine this guy raining hell down on his opponents with the fire breath. Would have been cool had they painted the tongue. I mean, it's definitely sculpted, so a little unfortunate that there's no paint, but those green beady eyes, some nice sculpt work here for the back of the neck, and I like how the gold trickles from the underside to the belly. That is so sick. But here from a side perspective, you can see more of that kind of scaly texture scattered throughout this guy, and the tail. Trust me, when we get into articulation, this thing is so impressive. This literally becomes the front of the die, and to think of how many individual segments have been packed into this, I just think it's so cool. Love the paintwork as well. Nothing on this guy's sloppy, which I thought was pretty impressive. Now, as we jump into articulation, much like detail, the best articulated Diceling that I've picked up so far. It really does seem like they've put a lot of budget into these dragons for the Dungeons & Dragons movie, as you would expect. So we do get a bit of draw articulation. This can open and close. Be careful not to open it too wide, otherwise it kind of looks like he's ripped his jaw clean in half. We do get a ball joint here at the head, as well as an actual hinge joint at the neck. So that allows for a great range. We can also hinge this up and down, and due to transformation, the entire neck itself does also hinge up and down. Now we get ball joints here at the shoulders as well as the wrists, so as you would imagine they can go forwards and backwards and rotate left to right. We also do get some nice hinge joints out of the elbows. Due to transformation, a proper waist joint, which I thought was insane, and the wings here can hinge back and forth and flap in and out, so you can definitely have this guy flapping into battle, which I thought was awesome. And again, so many different segmented panels scattered throughout these wings, so that's pretty awesome. And then we come here to the back legs. So ball joints here for the hips, can go forwards and backwards, and many hinge joints. So you can kind of chicken leg him to your own preference, and a little bit of ball joint there out of the ankle. Now the tail, this is what really surprised me, especially for the price point. So we do get a hinge joint going up and down due to transformation, but each of the segments besides this tiny one here at the top not only can hinge back and forth, but they can also rotate left to right. So you can really get this here in some pretty cool poses, which I thought was awesome. That is a great range, and even this tiny tip here at the end also has got a little hinge joint. So definitely the most impressive Diceling that I've picked up so far, and I wasn't entirely sold on the red one, but after checking this guy out, hands down, I have to pick that one up to see how it stacks up against the Black Dragon. Now, as we jump into a few size comparisons, here we have Rakor compared alongside the Beholder as well as the Owlbear. Again, be sure to check out their reviews if you haven't done so already, but definitely the biggest out of the bunch, as you would expect, especially in terms of that wingspan and the length from the top of the head to the tip of the tail. Now, transformation back from Dragon into Die mode, I actually think is more complex than going from Die into Dragon mode, so I'm definitely going to showcase this one. So to kickstart things off, what I'd like to do is come here to the waist, rotate this section around first of all. What we can then do is bend here at the elbows and rotate these wrist joints around, and then bring these pieces inwards, just like that. Do the same here for this side, so rotate at the wrist, bend here out of the elbow, and then just bring this section around. I'd now take the head, bring this section in, and just collapse it alongside like that. We can now take the hip joints and just bring all of this up, rotate the foot around, and collapse this up. So essentially you curl him into a nice ball, and like I said previously, the horns are just going to get kind of mashed up due to how much compression has to go on. You really have to squeeze those legs in there due to transformation and for the rest of the shell to wrap around. So that is the position of everything here. What we can then do is take this, bring this up and over, and this segment of the tail actually kind of soft clicks into place, so it will just kind of click there. We can then take the tip of the tail, and if it hasn't done so already, hinge that in, and then just straighten out that neck, and then there's a tiny little clip that's just going to shoot on the underside of that. So at the moment you should be left with something which is looking along the lines of this. Now comes the most challenging part in my opinion. You're just going to want to take all of this and curl it over, but make sure that they are compressed in as neatly as possible. So just snap that in there, snap that section in, come here to the underside, and just clip all of these panels in like that. Do the same here for this side. To the elbow joint kind of has to be tucked over the top of the hip joint. So just do the same here for this side, snapping everything into place. And I would recommend to just give it a nice firm squeeze, and hopefully everything keeps its position. And bang, there you have the Rakor, the Black Dragon, fully transformed up into its Die mode. So quite an intricate transformation, I'm not going to lie, especially for these Dicelings. I think this is the best out of the bunch if you haven't guessed so already. And yeah, definitely a really cool figure, quite fun to mess around with. I mean, they're not too big, so I'm not going to take up an enormous amount of shelf space, and they're just fun to kind of revert back and forth from Die to Beast mode. So I'd love to get your thoughts down in the comment section below. Out of all of the Dicelings I've reviewed so far, which is your personal favourite, and would you guys like me to continue some of these D&D reviews over on the channel? So that was my review for the Dicelings Rakor, and until my next video, I thank you all so much for watching. Goodbye.